Good morning. And here we are on Friday. Yes, Friday, the 31st, the last day of this month, the end of the first quarter. And as we've been talking about your organization and what we need to be able to do this quarter so that we can be ready for next quarter, have you planned out your third quarter? You can't be planning out your second quarter today. It needs to be already done. We've talked about scheduling, how to put your plan together, and how to do things. We just jumped in and got started this morning. I'm so excited because it's Friday. This is Rich Wallace, and thank you so much for joining another episode of Strictly Business. We're on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday mornings at 7 a.m. Uh, and an opportunity to be able to connect. If you're interested in being on our show, we would love to have you. Uh, Please come out and participate at our Black Chamber of Commerce mixers from the desert to the sea. On Monday, we're going to be in the city of Pomona. So please go to our website at blackchamberofcommerce.org and find out where the next mixer in your area is. There is one every month out in the Southern California region, so for you to be able to connect. Yeah, you see the golf tournament behind me coming up on June 9th at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, Brookside Country Club. We're going to be playing golf. Now, this is a golf tournament for the pros, the non-pros, and just the people with some old bent-up clubs in the garage. So come out. We have a great time in networking, a great opportunity to meet some celebrities, and a great opportunity to network some corporate offices. JustWorks, ADP, and other corporations will be out. Funding out here at the golf tournament, having a great time. So if you're interested in participating, go to our website at blackchamberofcommerce.org. And if you want to be on a show of Strictly Business, just kind of listen to this next 30-second spot, and we'll be right back.
Business owners are raving about the new talk show, Strictly Business with host Rich Wallace. Tune in as the top experts in business share their success stories, strategies, guidance, and advice to help you grow your business. With guests from the top companies to your favorite influencers, Strictly Business with host Rich Wallace is the show to watch for all things business. Our conversations are strictly business. We discuss new funding options, new business initiatives, best business practices, all things business explained. We provide you with the tips you need for your business, all in one morning business talk show. Be sure to tune in. Are you a business owner? Do you have a story to share? Are you able to help our audience? Then we want you on Strictly Business with host Rich Wallace. Visit the website at edgetvnetwork.net and select Be a Guest to schedule your appearance today.
And yes, if you want to be on the show, just go to edgetvnetwork.net and we will get you here live, and we will be talking about business attitude, business strategies, and business planning. Now we're going to be talking about some business health, some management to be able to not only be healthy in business, but to have a healthy business. I have Mr. Andre Hall as a guest today, and we're going to invite Mr. Hall in so we can talk about what we're going to jump right in. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rich.
How are you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great. Just
All
happy
right.
to be here.
Oh, you make me look bad. I didn't put my tie on today. You're all suited up, ready to boot it, ready to get out there and jump on it on a Friday.
Absolutely. Don't have a choice.
Yes, sir. So tell us really, what is Wealth Management Group?
Hall Wealth Management Group is a company that I founded, and it's all about helping people minimize their risk, identifying their risk, the quantity of those risks, to determine if you want to transfer those risks or assume those risks. The other piece of it is planning, tax planning. And that is, the question becomes, are you really planning for taxes as you're accumulating wealth and when it comes time for distributing that wealth? Most people don't look at that. The thing that most people look at is how much they make on their money, which is important, no question about it. But it's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep.
Okay, so now, Mr. Hall, when you say risk, what are we talking about? Are we talking about people putting money in the stock market, or just buying a new Lexus, or what is the risk for a small business person that they should be watching out for, or why would I need your services if I'm not necessarily, because I don't know what risks would be that, because a lot of times people, they jump into business, they get started, and they're just running and gunning. They don't even know that there's a risk, So what should they be looking out for?
If you got a business, and especially once it's become successful, or you're a corporate executive and you become successful, there's risk as far as ensuring that you don't lose what you've accumulated. Okay, and there's a number of ways you can lose things, from a health crisis, if your pension becomes unfunded, Social Security benefits, not really understanding how to maximize those Social Security benefits. A lot of people know that you can wait until age 70, but there's still, you need to plan out all of that. High concentration of public stock, homeowners insurance, determining whether it's right for you. When you own rental property, accident on the rental property, is it held in an LLC or something of that nature? But what I do is I look at all the things. Teenage drivers, I have one of those. And guess what? He had a major accident. And this cost me a ton of money. Okay. When I say a ton of money, but I was protected. But at the same time, still things happen. Unfortunately, some of us leave earlier than we planned. Have you prepared for that for your family? We all know about life insurance or whatever, but there's more to planning than just life insurance. Long-term care for not just you, but your parents. There are so many baby boomers where, we've heard the term, we're sandwiched between our parents and our kids, and we're helping both. And so there's a lot of different risk out there. If you don't plan for, guess what? There can overcome you. The other thing is, when it comes to planning and financial planning and so on, a lot of people don't realize you either have to make the plans yourself and do the right planning, or you're going to get the government's plan. And the government's plan is not pretty, because guess what? They want your money because they need your money. We know how broke our government is right now. So the question becomes, have you really structured things when it comes to estate planning and a number of things to maximize and minimize what they get, what you keep and what they get?
So Mr. Hall, now, as a small business person, and I got what you're saying, when I get to a certain level, I need to take a look at my risks, or take a look at maintaining, keeping my house and all of this. But right now I'm in the trenches. I got me and maybe one employee. We're trying to pay the rent. We're trying to, buy the material that we're selling. And then we have all of these taxes that we're looking at, city licensing, and all of these different little bitty things that really have nothing to do with the actual business that a person is in, but that we had someone on the other day and we were talking about the back door of the business. So this is kind of where you are in managing, and Hall's wealth management is really talking about managing the back door of the business, so that we don't get caught up when we do make money. Or can I use your services as I'm in the struggle trying to make money, as I'm barely keeping my lights on? Is there benefits? And you were talking about Social Security. I mean, when I hit 62, I grabbed my money. I didn't wait to 65. I didn't wait to 70. I'm like, give me mine now. Now that I'm over that, I'm thinking maybe I should have waited. I don't know if I can go back and get that money. I don't know. As you were talking about Social Security, we don't know. The people that are on Social Security really don't know anything about Social Security, except for I'm getting $1,000, $1,200 every month, and I could have waited and got $1,500 a month, or whatever the case may be. But how does a small business person that's in the struggle, how do I benefit from Hall's wealth management? I know we're talking about planning for the future, but I need you today. How can I do something today with you?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, the old saying of failure to plan is planning to fail. So, we all struggle in the beginning. So that's there. But if you don't plan, you talk a lot about planning on your show. So, but if you don't plan for things in advance, even if everything costs money, and if you don't plan for things in advance, guess what? You're not going to be prepared for the things that happen, and you're always going to be in that on that circle thing. Just running around versus having put things in place so that from a financial standpoint, a risk standpoint, a well in advance of when it's going to be time to sell the business, you got to start all of that 5 to 10 years ahead of time. So there's a lot of things you got to plan for, and that's what we go through. Okay, we go through all the things. We're not just a money management firm, which we do. That's a huge part of my business. But at the same time, I work through with my clients all the pieces, both personal and business, that need to be worked through. I work through all the things, not just the risk, but how do you plan now to minimize taxes? But more importantly, how do you plan in the distribution phase to minimize taxes? So it's all about risk management and tax planning. Those are two key pieces. And, as a part of all of that is estate planning. I'm not an attorney. I don't write trusts, but I plan and make sure we maximize the trust based on your situation, your circumstances. And I work with your attorney.
And one of the things that you said, it hit me is that you're right. If you don't plan, you will fail. You must have some kind of plan in place. And there's really no perfect time. I'm going to wait till I get, to 100,000. I'm going to wait till I make $20. I'm going to wait. So you got to take the $2 or $3 that you're taking in, put something aside, call someone like Hall's Wealth Management so that I can manage my small money so that when I get big money, I am better organized for it. One of the things is that if you're not good with small things, you won't be good with big things. That's a lesson that I've had to learn over the years. But in preparing for a lot of these things, and you mentioned that you sit down with your clients and kind of walk through money management, kind of walk through planning. So would you tell a guy like me, well, you don't need to buy that 50-inch screen Mac computer right now. You can use this PC that's 10-inch screen to get to where you want to go. So many people want to look good in business that, I've heard, and I drive old cars. I've heard, hey, if you pull up in a Lexus, people will know you're successful. And they'll know this because of the way you look and the way this. And we live in an environment where the first look is what people kind of look at. Dress for success. We talked about these kinds of things, being prepared and all of this. But I have friends with money that have a lot of money, and they don't look like they got any money. So
that's right.
they dress down, they don't drive old cars, but they drive decent cars. And I'm thinking, right. Okay, as we're, what do they call it? As we're fronting out here, like we got something, it takes someone like a company like yours to be able to come in and say, hey, we need to be able to email Andre, to talk to him about what we're trying to do to get our plan in place. So do you talk to struggling businesses, or I know when I sold insurance, before I came to the person's house, I made sure they could buy the insurance. I was a good agent, but I I was only interested in the outcome for me at that time. Later on, I found out that I had to be in the outcome for my client, and I would get paid because I cared about how the client was doing what they needed to do. So do you talk to small businesses, 2-man, 1-man operation? I got a print shop. It's just me in here working. I'm printing some stuff. But, I have a $5,000 week sometime, and some weeks I got a $200 week. Do you sit down with those clients as well?
Well, it's a different kind of conversation, though.
Okay.
To be straight up with you. I sit down with a lot of people who, quite frankly, cannot afford my services. But I'm going to sit down with you. Okay. I'm going to sit down and give you some thoughts, some ideas, and things you can do to start planning for the future. You don't want, you talked about driving flashy cars and all of that. Unfortunately, when you look at the NFL as an example, 70% are Black players. Unfortunately, you got 10% of Black coaches, but at least head coaches. But the thing is about NFL players, NBA players, the majority of those players, over 70 to 80%, are broke after 3 years when they stop playing. They have the flashy cars, they have the fancy homes, et cetera, et cetera. They have all of that, but they didn't have the right advice. And they're young though too.
Mm-hmm.
They get the money when it's not like us. We got it when we were much older. They're very young, but they really need guidance when it comes to how to handle things. And sometimes they really got to learn how to say no. It's something that a lot of these folks don't understand. You could be a high-flying young business exec, and you're showing off just like an athlete. At the same time, the thing people don't understand, they're like, I'm talking about a business exec right now and an athlete. They pay a huge amount in taxes.
Right.
They're not minimizing taxes. They're not doing strategies, coming up with strategies. They're not doing tax planning so that they can minimize. You can't eliminate taxes totally. That's almost impossible in this day and age. But you can, through tax planning, figure out ways to pay less and to keep more of what you got. It's not, and I'm going to repeat myself again. When it comes to earning money and making money, it's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep. That's more important than how much you earn.
Yeah, I've experienced that myself. At one point, I owned up to 7 different restaurants across the country, and we were doing close to $100,000 a week, what we were making, but we were only keeping about $2,000 a week because the over 100 and something employees and taxes and rent and light and gas and all of that. Wished I'd have met you 45 years ago, because then I needed money planning, but I was running and gunning. And I think that's what you mentioned, even with the athletes. There's so much going on so quickly in your life that you don't think the money's going to stop. Right. And it does. You think, at one point, everything I touched turned to gold. I mean, it was just boom, 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 and I was, running and gunning and looking good and all of that kind of thing. And when you hit a dry season, and we live in seasons, winter, spring, fall, even though we're here in California, we still have seasons. So when you hit a dry season, as you said, if you're not prepared for that dry season, then you wake up and you go, whoa, So how does a small business person, I tell people to pay yourself. Put yourself on the payroll, take out taxes out of your check like you do your employee's check. Put yourself as an employee with the company. So what is your suggestions to small business people? How do they prepare? I mean, really, how do they prepare because I don't have any money left at the end of the week. I can't put $250 away into my wealth management plan for my future. I'm already paying for life insurance. And, every time I see my wife, she got a bag in her hand,
now, some wives are saying every time they see their husband, they got a bag in their hand, or they got a watch on their wrist, a new watch, or
and you know what?
We gotta get those things straight in this day and age.
And you know what, Mr. Hall, that's a key point that we're making here, is that the team that you have at home, the husband, wife, the boyfriend, girlfriend, the office manager, you've got to sit down with your team and plan not only your future but their future. So it's so important that a couple, that especially an entrepreneur, that they have that hard discussion about, we can't afford to have a gardener at $250 a month. That, you don't think about it, but it's $250 a month. That's a lot of money to cut your grass. So, with artificial turf, we may take a look at, hey, let's buy the turf. It's long term. It's saving some money. It's doing this and it's doing these kinds of things. So, how do you get those people to sit down and have that hard discussion? And it's for us as a people, when they look at you, oh, here's a black guy coming in trying to tell me how to save my money. A lot of times, us as a people don't think that our people know how to do that. And I can believe it coming from a different nationality of people. Do you run into trying to prove that you're as good as the next guy?
Well, and that comes into play not only with our people, obviously, but also with other nationalities. There was a survey. I'm in Orange County, Irvine, California.
Okay.
A survey was done by the Orange County Business Journal. And in that survey, they had a 50-ish white male, a white female, a Asian, a Indian, a person of Indian descent, and a black man. And they asked all with the same, they described the same, each had the same qualifications. The white male obviously got the most people that's picks. The white female got the next, then the Asian, then the Indian, and no one picked the black male. And so that is something that especially in this profession, that black people, male and females, we face that on a daily basis. Now, how do you overcome that thing? The only way you can overcome it is really make sure people understand you know more than everybody else out there. And I say that, and I say that with not bragging or anything, but at the same time, I know a lot. I have kept educating myself throughout this process. How I got started here in doing this, I came from the corporate world. I was a vice president at a corporate 100 company. I was a corporate officer at another corporation. And the reason that it started happening, how I started doing this, I had a number of employees through the years. When you're managing a large organization of 3,000 people or so, that either the person that worked for me passed away or a spouse passed away, and then the remaining spouse would come to me for advice. It just seems like it was a natural thing, and then it started snowballing. And what it boiled down to was that people needed direction. They needed help. They needed to figure out what was next. And what I found was there was such a lack of planning done in advance. they had life insurance, but they
Mhm.
didn't have the plans laid out. They didn't have what should happen. What should that remaining spouse do? And so I ended up, I said, when it was time for me, I said, I'm ready to leave the corporate world. What am I going to do next? And I had a night, my son is 19 years old, and I've been doing this for 19 years now. And while he was just before he was born, I was over in China, and I did a lot of international traveling. I was over there for a month or two. And when I came back, getting ready to come back, the SARS virus hit. So I had to go stay in a hotel room for a week because my wife was pregnant. But I said, I don't want to do all this traveling. I spent as much as 250 days a year in hotel rooms 4 different years. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. So when I looked around and said, what could I do? And this is how I found myself doing what I'm doing, because I really enjoy helping people. I really enjoy helping them through their planning for a better life. And that's what I really enjoy doing. And I'm trying to keep it kind of simple, Rich, in that if you do, yes, you want to make money, you got to look at how do you, your investments and so on. But I'm going to keep coming back to tax planning and risk management. Okay. Because there's so many different kind of risk management, i.e., one spouse passes away. Okay. And the spouse that's left remarries. And guess what? A lot of times that spouse then passes away before the new spouse passes away. And guess who gets the money? The new spouse. What happens to the kids? Okay. So the two people that made the money are both gone now.
Some stranger walking away with the money.
That's right. So the kids that they have are not getting, if you didn't plan for that, guess what? That's just one simple example of I've seen happen many, many times. Yeah. Especially then I'm gonna go back to us guys, because they go for the we'll say it this way, the Dallas cheerleader.
Yeah, okay.
But there are things you can do. You can put in your trust that while they're both alive, that says that if you remarry, you have to have a prenup done, and the prenup has to be this way, or you lose my share of what you inherited. Okay.
So now, is that a will or is that a trust? How does that work? When you do that, does a person leave a will and a trust, or is it just a trust? Because the reason I'm asking, I had a similar situation. I lost my son. He had cancer, and he remarried, but this was his third marriage, and he had several kids from the first and the second, and they had a house when he passed and some other things. So it didn't get messy because the kids were grown, and a lot of times us as a people go, I'll forget that. I don't need that. I don't want that. And people just kind of like walk away from thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars because they feel that they don't need that, or I don't want the fight. My daddy or my mom wouldn't want me to go through that kind of thing. So is that when you put that will or that trust in place to make sure that they just can't say no, or they just, because, we had another example. I was partners with a gentleman. We had a school building in Ontario, and he passed away suddenly. And I was with him on Saturday, and he didn't wake up on Sunday. No one knew he was even sick. And the wife was so devastated, she just like, forget it, and I kind of got caught up in it. I couldn't get what I was trying to get. You couldn't have a conversation with the wife, and him and I were cool, and all of that. But when the rubber met the road, it was the legality stuff that just and I just kind of like, you know what? I don't want to be bothered with it. I lost a few $100,000. Let me just move on. And that's what I did. So now had him and I had some kind of I don't know what kind of policy or what could have, what in that situation, which is probably a lot of things, because men partner up on a handshake all the time.
Yep.
They just like, man, me and you cool, bro, but when something happens to one of them, and I had actually only met his wife 2 or 3 times, so I didn't even know the lady, but when he passed, she was so distraught. It was a mess. So what is the planning strategy? Is there a partnership, or, and, sometimes Black men, we don't want to get too legal with stuff. We just, he cool, I'm cool. What do you do in situations like that?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, first of all, obviously, you got to have the documents.
Yeah.
You got to have everything in writing, always, because sometimes you're cool with each other, then you become uncool with each other.
That's true.
So you always got to have everything in writing. That's number one. Not just because if one of you passes away, but just so it's real clear how the business is supposed to operate and who does what, and if you guys decide to part, what happens with the business, what share, how do you guys divide it up, etc. All that has to be in writing. That's number one. Number two, if in fact, from an insurance standpoint, you should have key man insurance on each of you, so that if something happens, you got to go out and hire someone to help maintain the business. That insurance pays for that. And you mentioned something and Rich, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it had hit me at the time that, unfortunately, I'm not remembering what that was, but it was something that you were dealing with personally.
It was my son that passed, and he had children from 2 marriages.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so
the new wife did not want to share with the children, and it just got to be really, really crazy.
Well, what you're talking, first of all, everyone should have a trust. You should get it done by an attorney, but if you don't do that, at least go to LegalZoom or someplace and get a living trust. So everyone should have a living trust, and you don't do it one time. You got to relook at that at least every 5 years and update it. Okay, because things change, laws change. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have a living trust. When you have a living trust, a will is a subset of that living trust. And with the living trust, your estate doesn't have to go through probate, doesn't go through the courts. It's all handled by the administrator, whoever you appointed or named in the living trust. So that is very, very key. When it goes through probate, an attorney and the courts, your heirs are going to lose at least 25%, and it could be much more. Let's say you have a house that's worth $1 million, but you owe $800,000 on it. Okay, so going through probate, the attorney's going to get, like I say, 15 to 20% plus the courts, and you only have $200,000 in equity. That whole equity is eaten up. So you don't want your estate to go through probate. You want to make sure you have a living trust. Everybody should have one, no matter what, especially even if the only thing you got is a home, and definitely if you have kids. And the other thing about a prenup, it's not part of the trust per se. What I was speaking of, like in that situation, is that your son could have had a prenup that said that, the first wife and your son could have had a prenup, or and it's a little bit different when it's divorce versus other things come into play, and I can't talk about everything right now.
Right.
But when a spouse passes away, what you have, you can put into trust for both spouses. If one of them outlives the other and they remarry, is that there's a prenup in place so that the children can't get disinherited by in that if the spouse, remaining spouse does not do the prenup, the dollars from her half of the estate he or she doesn't get.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So that's why, things like that are a little more complicated, but those are the kind of things you want to do to make sure you don't disinherit your kids.
Wow. This is a little heavy, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
One of the secrets to exposure for your business lies within supporting Black businesses and entrepreneurs. And that is why the Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce is here to connect Black businesses from the desert to the sea. Let's join hands to empower and sustain our community. By becoming a member of the Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce, you can grow your business and increase your clientele. With our innovation, we'll generate new businesses and get new customers. And we'll connect new mindsets with businesses from across Southern California to help bridge the wealth gap. Let's connect, build, and grow together. Join us now at blackchamberofcommerce.org.
Are you ready to change your life? Let us help you. At Youth Build Charter School, you can get a high school diploma and kickstart your dream career in no time. We offer high school diploma programs in construction, CNA, military, college, and entrepreneurship. If you are between the age of 16 and 24 and you want to manage your studies with a job, recover your credits, or graduate early, we can help you achieve your dream. Call us at 1-888-395-4408 or visit youthbuildinlandempire.org.
Good morning again. This is Rich Wallace here, and we're here with Mr. Andre Hall. We had some deep conversation going about living trusts and wills and what to leave behind, how to plan your estate, how to do all of these things, and how to manage your money. Real quick, we have our celebrity golf tournament coming up on June 9th at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, and we are trying to be sure that small businesses plan ahead. We're not talking about planning for death and destruction and all of that. We're talking about planning for your future. So I know when I sold insurance, we would talk about, the end time, but we would talk about what if you did live? What if you got to be 75? What caretakers today are struggling trying to take care of. Mr. Hall was saying that some people are caught in the middle because your parents are still alive and you take care of them, your children. Because we live in a tough economical situation, they need help with their rent and all of these different things trapped in the middle. And we talk about insurance, and it's just been an exciting morning here for your planning stage. Mr. Hall, we were talking about your teenager that had an accident. We had an episode with the Black Chamber of Commerce where one of our volunteers had an accident while they were volunteering, and the chamber got sued. We had not planned for that. So we now had to revise our insurance and plan for other things for the way distant thing that was out there. We sent someone, we didn't actually send them. They went to go get some ice and had an accident, and we got sued, and we never even got the ice. We had not planned for that. So in looking at situations, do you reach out and talking to your small businesses and getting them ready for the plan for the future and the things that may happen? Do you take wild scenario? Because you couldn't have sold me a plan on that, because I never even knew I could be sued for somebody that was going to get something for me. That was an out of the box situation that just caught us completely off guard. And luckily we did have insurance, and we did have something in the clause that said that that covered that, but we still had to come out of pocket. And then of course the insurance went up, and it was it was a big surprise to us. So do you deal with getting people ready for the unforeseen?
You know what? I absolutely do, because I look at 22 to 25 scenarios when it comes to about risk. Let's take whether it's your own home or rental property. Okay, rental properties, obviously, you don't want to still own directly. You want
Mm,
them in a LLC. But at the same time, if you got a roofer on your roof, fixing your roof, and you didn't make sure they had the right insurance, and one of the workers fall off your roof, who do they sue? They don't sue the employer, they sue you, because you have deeper pockets most of the time.
mm. So it's
So
down to
someone is working on your roof, a worker, and they fall off, you're the one that gets sued, and you're the one that could lose your home or your rental property. And if it's a rental property, at least it's isolated to that rental property versus all of your other personal stuff. And sometimes I would recommend with my clients, you don't get one LLC, you get an LLC for each rental property. That way, the other rental properties are outside of the issue with that one that's being sued.
Would you be able to tell us and you mentioned having the rental property, and I have some, and some of my kids have rental property, uh, and I don't think they're in an LLC. Uh, is there a big difference, or is the LLC or the C Corp or the S Corp? I mean, do you talk to them about the difference between an S Corp or a C Corp or LLC? Which one is, I mean, because you got the everyday guy that don't know the LLC from the S Corp or the C Corp. Which one would you suggest, or where should they go to find this information? Is that what Hall's Wealth Management teaches us, the difference, or which one is the best?
Well, first of all, if we're talking rental properties, more than likely it's going to be an LLC. If we're talking forming your corporation, then we're going to have to look at what your business is. How do you want to structure it? What do you ultimately hope to see down the road, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road? How do you see your business developing and maturing? So we would look at all of that. And basically, that's all, that, Rich, comes back to planning. Okay, laying out the plan, just like you say, a business plan. Yeah, I've looked at several of your shows, and you got to have your business plan, you got to have your marketing plan, you got to have your formation plan. That is all a part of it, and based on your business. And not too many of us are going to be a C Corp starting off. You can get to there. Sometimes it's better to do an S Corp. Sometimes it's better to do an LLC. It just depends.
Okay. And now, as a planner, would is that a thing that you talk to lawyers about? I mean, because lawyers cost what, $150 an hour. I'm in my
A lot
plan.
more than that.
More than that. Oh. See, when the last time I talked to a lawyer.
You're looking at $300 to $500 an hour.
Wow, man. And there are groups running around selling legal services that are $50 a month, and you get some legal advice. Is that something that a small business guy, he just doesn't know where to go, because there's so many different options, and everybody got the best, and everybody's got this, and you're dropping $50 a month in a lawyer planning situation, and you find out that they make suggestions and then send you to a lawyer. So now you've spent a whole year of paying $40, $50 a month for suggestion to go call a lawyer. And it is such a struggle and we live in the Sioux state. Everybody's trying to sue here in California. I have businesses in Texas. You mentioned Dallas, so I'm from that area. So most of my restaurants were in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it was just cheaper to do business down there. Even the restaurants, I think over the 10 years, I was probably sued about 3 or 4 times. And the fees were a lot. We won all cases, but winning and paying to win, I don't know if you win or not. uh, so when you look at these out of court settlements and stuff, sometimes it was just easier to pay the people than to pay this lawyer. Then they keep going to court every 2 or 3 weeks or whatever the fees and stuff were. It was crazy. So I guess the thing for, and I have your email flashing across the screen. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yes, I can.
But it is necessary to get some advice from someone that has your best interest at heart. So if I just come to you for advice, I don't buy the plan. Is there an initial conversation fee that you may have? Because I know you want to get paid. You don't want to waste your time with a bunch of questions. If your family is like my family, they call me for everything, but they don't buy anything from me.
They ask for things.
They ask for things. Well, what should I do about this?
Thing is?
Yeah. What should I do about this? And what should I do about that? So do you get, or are you open for questions for people to email you and say, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I'm paying for legal. I pay $50 a month for a legal service that will suggest that I call a lawyer. I pay, I haven't got, and I'm going to be on a lot of our small business about the strategy, about not just the will, but the other thing that we were talking about is getting that taken care of, because very few people have that strategy down. If something should happen, very few people, everybody got a will, and last will and testament and this and that, if something should happen, but we don't plan that, especially if we are entrepreneurs. What is your business worth? I know when I got out of the restaurant business, it cost me almost as much to get out as it did to get in. And I wasn't planning for that. That did not, I just figured I could close, send these people on their way. These people went and filed for unemployment, this and that. I had insurances. It was a nightmare closing those restaurants, but they were chain restaurants. So it was a little easier, but it was still a lot of money. And it was just something I had not planned for. So do you talk to people about, or just have a conversation with them, or is there an initial fee that you charge for people to come in?
I do a complimentary consultation with anyone, and that's no charge. And so I do that. And the thing is, and what you were just mentioning, I do want to say this, a couple of things. Number one, when you're talking about a will still goes through probate. A living trust does not. So people need to remember that. They think they have things taken care of with a will, but it's not really taken care of. I want to also be very clear. I have a wealth management business. I'm not an attorney. Do I know a lot of things? Yes, but I'm not an attorney. I don't draw up trusts or wills or any of that, those type of documents. But what I do is, when I have a high net worth individual coming to me and they're trying to figure out how do they want to construct the distribution of their wealth, I do that planning and give that to the attorney. And then they put it in the legalese, that how it has to be legally written up. But at the same time, it is in most cases, it takes a real good financial planner, wealth management type of individual to figure out how should this estate be distributed to minimize taxes while the person's alive and at their passing, and which kids get what, and all of that to charities, etc. So it is something that has to be planned out, and not just say, okay, I got 10 million in assets and we're just going to divide them. You don't do it that way. You got to figure out which assets go to who, who is going to have the highest tax impact based on the asset that they get. You have to look at all of those type of things when you're doing the planning.
So oh man, you've given me a lot here. A trust. Who is? I guess what I'm saying is, who is the best client for you? You mentioned you have a 19-year-old. Is it the young people that can put a trust together? I'm over 70. Am I too late for that? And because I have assets at 70, I do need to put a trust together. I have a will and a this and a that, but I didn't itemize who gets the copy machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or who gets the, two cars, they're old cars, but they're cars. Who gets the car?
Right.
And is that an itemized item that a person has to go through in building a trust, I guess, account? Or you mentioned LegalZoom or some other places, and you also mentioned that lawyers are $300, an hour. So what does that person that really needs to put a trust together, that has a restaurant, or that I've got friends that have millions of dollars, and I know they have wills, but and they got some egghead children, and they got some children that got solid minds. So does that trust have to be almost itemized down to the last computer or last copy machine?
It needs to be. And that piece is the will that's a subset of the living trust. Okay. Remember, they go together. And so you need to have all of that laid out. And why the living trust is so important. If you have all that laid out in a will by itself, it still goes through probate. And there's a huge cost when it goes to probate. You can lose 25, the kids, the people that you want to get things can lose 25 to 30 to 40% of their inheritance because it's going through probate, because you didn't have the living trust. So that is very, very important to have that. But any attorney that's doing a living trust, and most attorneys are pretty good at this part, they're going to have a will that's a subset of that living trust.
Okay. Now, besides an attorney, where they have these people now that do the paperwork for lawyers, or they call them
paralegals.
Can they do living trusts, or is it something that a lawyer has to put a stamp on?
Well, let me say it this way. It depends on how complicated your situation is and what you got. I mean, obviously, the more money you got, quite frankly, the more complicated it becomes.
Yeah.
And the other thing that comes into play, if you got egghead children, you want to make sure that they don't get it, what you worked so hard to accumulate, and blow it. You got new Secure Act laws that are now. Before, people could, for IRA dollars or 401k dollars that were inherited, you could spread that out over your lifetime, taking those funds. Now you have to take them all out in 10 years. And that just happened with the Secure Act. So, and that's a whole nother discussion. So the thing is, what have you done to plan for that in your estate planning? All of that has to be looked at. It has to be looked at. Executives, they have to look at, okay, how am I going to plan for retirement? I got all these restricted stock options, or restricted stock, and then you got options in some cases, although quite frankly, not too many companies are doing options anymore. They're doing restricted stock. And you got to plan for that. You got to figure out, someone has to understand how they work, what is the best way to minimize the taxes on when you get them, and deferred compensation with a lot of execs. So again, all of that is very, very important. And a lot of people don't plan for it. Even senior executives don't plan for it. You know why? They're running, trying to drive, you talk about small business owners being busy. executives, senior executives of major corporations, they have almost zero time for themselves and for their personal needs. And they don't do the right amount of planning. Even CEOs don't in a lot of cases.
Now, the inheritance tax, did they get rid of the inheritance tax, or is that still out there?
Well, right now, until 2025, if you, there's each person, I think it's up now because of inflation to about 12 million. So each spouse would be able to shield 12 million, which is basically 24 to 25 million dollars, and there not be any tax on that.
Okay.
But it's going to sunset back to the old figures, which will end up being 5 or 6 million after 2025, and we're not that far away from that unless they pass a new law.
Okay.
So again, that's why you have to look at your trust and always update them, because things change.
Okay, we're going to take a real short break and then we'll come back with a close.
Okay.
Good news for the Southern California business community. Now you can add your business to the Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce Business Directory complimentary. We have been working tirelessly to build a list of Black-owned enterprises in Southern California. This is an excellent way for you to be a part of an expansive network and find your ideal customers, business partners, and vendors. So don't waste time. Visit blackchamberofcommerce.org today and add your business today.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
A good business consultant.
And I kept searching.
and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Thank you.
If you were looking for one as well,
Look no further.
Here's a really good one.
just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend.
Problem gone.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to give you an opportunity, Mr. Hall, to give us a quick close of what I've got your email address down. I've had a couple of questions in the chat, and you pretty much answered those as we were talking. I wanted to give a plug for our educational program at Youth Build Education. So as we wrap up, you've left us with something on here on a Friday. So maybe this Saturday over the weekend, some of you small business people will start to at least download the paperwork for a trust and sit down at the dinner table and spread that paper out and identify the copy machine, the camera, who gets the Minolta camera. They still have Minolta cameras, Panasonic cameras.
I think all the cameras are on our phone now.
Yeah, all on the phone now, and well, who gets the Apple phone? Because that's $1,000 phone, So yes, sir. So give us a going out present here that young people need, or small businesses need to pay attention to.
Well, you know what? You got to lay out what are all I know it's hard and you won't come up with them all. None of us do. But you got to lay out where you have risk. That's number one. And then you got to lay out whether you're going to assume the risk or transfer the risk. So you got to lay that out and figure that out. The thing that I would leave everyone with also is that you can go to my website, which is hwmg-lpl.com. Again, hwmg-lpl.com. And you can learn a lot of things on the website. That's number one. Number two, there's a contact form where you can contact me. Number three, my phone number is on my website for the firm. So all of that is on the website if you want to get in touch with me. Again, I'm going to repeat it again. It's hwmg-lpl.com. But what I would tell you again, and I learned this in my when I first went to work at Xerox. They were very good at training back in those days. And that was failure to plan is planning to fail. You got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, it's going to be tough to be successful, whether it's your own business, whether you're in the corporate world. I've done both. Or if in fact you don't have that plan, when it comes to the estate plan, if you don't have that laid out right, it's going to be the government's plan, and they are going to take what you worked so hard for, at least a huge part of it. And that's very, very important. And again, it's all about tax planning and risk management.
Well, thank you, sir. And we're going to shut off right now. It's our time. So thank you so much for being a part of Strictly Business. And we will see you guys on Wednesday of next week.